So we want to make sure that we're not able to sell more than we have or buy for more than we can afford. In order to do so, we need some checks. Let's start with a check for buying stocks. Here in the stock.view file, right now we never check if we actually can afford our plans. So in order to check this, I'll add a new computed property to this. So computed is added, and in there the name of the property I want to add is insufficient funds. This is a method like all computed properties, and here I simply want to return this quantity, referring to the quantity I entered into the input field, times this stock. Stock is of course passed to this component, price greater this funds. So I do check if my quantity I plan to buy multiplied with the price of the stock, if this is greater than funds. So this is true or false. And now with this computed property, which is true or false, I can go to my button and simply disable it in if insufficient funds is true, and then add a or sign to also perform the other checks. So if this is true, then this button will be disabled. Now, of course, funds isn't available yet. For it to become available, I again need to add my computed property for that, where I return this store gathers funds, as we did it many times before. Now with this in place, we can check this. If we reload the app and enter a too high number, the button indeed gets disabled. Now I also want to update the text we see on the button depending on this, so I'll use interpolation for this. And here I simply want to check insufficient funds, great word when you're talking whilst writing. And if this is true, I know I don't have enough, so I want to print insufficient funds in this case. Otherwise, I print buy. So let's see if that also works. It should. Yes, looks good. How it works. Great. So with that, we're making sure we're getting an error message if we're trying to buy something we can't afford. We also may put a red border around the input in such a case. So let's bind a dynamic class here. And let's say this class, which I yet have to add, is called danger, depends on insufficient funds too. And I will create the class here, style, and scope it to this component here. This style is called danger, or this class is called danger, and it simply will create a red border of 1 pixel, which is solid. And yeah, red. So again, if I enter a too high number here, we do get this red border around the input. Looks great. So with that, we're making sure we cannot buy more than we can afford. Now I also want to make sure that we can't sell more than we have. So over in the stock.view file in my portfolio module or folder here, I want to perform a kind of similar check. I will add the computed field here to add a new computed property which is called insufficient quantity, because now it's not the funds which is the part restricting our action possibility, but instead the quantity we have in our portfolio. So here I want to return this quantity, so what we entered into the input field, and check if it's greater than the quantity in our stock. Only if this is the case will I want to return that it's not possible, because then we're trying to sell more than we do have. So if we want to sell more than it's in our portfolio, we'll get, well, not an error, but we'll disable the button. So I'll disable the button if insufficient quantity is true, or one of the other conditions, of course. And in such a case, I also want to output, so check if insufficient quantity is true, and then I want to output not enough stocks, otherwise I will output sell, like this. And why don't we also copy that scope style over there to also mark the input as, well, wrong if this is actually the case. So have the same check here, danger is insufficient quantity, and danger of course refers to this class. So now if I do buy 1 and I want to sell 2, I get not enough stocks. It kind of jumps uglily here, I have to admit, simply due to the styling. So let me maybe just change this to not enough to have a quick fix at hand. Looks better. And I can sell one stock, of course. 0 is not allowed because it's too less, but 1 does work. So now we get these checks in place. We're able to sell our stocks and buy it. The funds get updated. Everything seems to work great. The next thing is a minor thing, but the funds, if we look at them, it works, but it's not looking great. Would be nice to have a dollar sign and format this more like a currency. So next challenge for you. Maybe a filter is helpful here. Let's try building it together in the next video.